And good morning, everybody. We are live. Congratulations. You made it through the week. Another week of food safety, food quality, amazing products, things that we enjoy every single day. Don't even give a second thought to food safety, but you know what? Campbell and I recognize that. And we just wanted to say this morning as we start off our chat, thank you. We appreciate all that you do to supply us with the safe food that we enjoy every day. So if you're new to the chat, welcome. Pull up a chair. This is going to be a discussion for an hour on a food safety topic with an amazing expert. And you'll notice here what I say. This is a conversation. This is not a lecture. This is not us pointing at you and telling you what you have to do. This is meant to be sharing of information because in food safety, it's not a point of competition. We're all working toward the same objective, and the consumers don't care what company we work for. All they want is to know when they take that product off the shelf that they don't have to give it a second thought. So with that, I'm really happy today. I've been trying to get this guy on the chat for quite a while, and he is a super busy dude. This is Campbell Mitchell, and he is with the Quest for Food Consulting. And Campbell, good morning.
Good morning.
So with the chat, one of the things that we love to do here, Campbell, is we let everybody know where in the world you're at, because I'm always amazed. And yourself as a cosmopolitan world leader of food safety, this is something you can definitely relate to. So I am currently in Loveland, Colorado, my home. Where are you at, Campbell?
I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and just moved here from Dubai about 3 months ago. So from the Middle East to the Midwest.
That's about as radical a change as you can make, I'm sure.
Yeah. I'm getting used to checking the weather report. In the Middle East, we never check the weather. It's either hot.
Yeah, I've been to Dubai once. A really interesting city. Got to go up in the Burj Khalifa and all the touristy things and things like that. But very fascinating. We went and drove. We took we hired a car and we drove down to see the Blue Mosque. Not the Blue Mosque. There's the Blue Mosque is in Istanbul. There's another famous mosque. There's another major city south of Dubai. Yes, in Abu.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was very interesting because on the drive down, the road is lined with billboards all the way down. And you can't, there's nothing to see, but it was very, very interesting how they did that.
And it's all desert, so it's just one road in the middle of the desert from one side.
Steve, good morning. Silver Spring, Maryland, beautiful, beautiful city. Ryan, always good to have Ryan. It's going to be a gorgeous Colorado weekend here. So it's still getting quite chilly at night, I'm sure for you as well. We're just a little bit above freezing, so you really don't want to do a whole lot of plant work outside, but it's going to be in the low 70s today. Beautiful blue sky, so it's going to be a fantastic day here. So
I was in Denver yesterday changing planes. I was in Phoenix and then changed planes in Denver, and I see there's still a bit of snow on the mountains there. So.
Yeah, it'll be there for quite a while yet. It's always interesting when people fly into Denver for the first time. The airport, if you haven't flown into Denver, is in the middle of nowhere, and you're landing and it's just barren, flat land. You can kind of see the mountains in the distance, and people are like, where am I? And yeah, that's kind of what it is. So with that, guys, as we get started on our chat, we got a ton of stuff to go over today. Please join Campbell and I for a drink of your favorite beverage. Cheers, everyone. Very nice. Very nice. So as we jump in the chat here today, Campbell, I'm sure a lot of people know who you are, but a lot of people don't. So I want you to give people a little bit of who you are and your extensive background.
Thanks. So I'm originally from New Zealand, as you might tell from the accent. I started my career with Fonterra in Edendale in the South Island of New Zealand, and the New Zealand's oldest cheese factory, which became the world's largest spray drying facility. So the really good introduction to the dairy industry. And then I worked for Nestle, and then I worked for McCain Foods. Then I moved to the Middle East. I was working for Armentrout in Saudi Arabia for 9 years. Then I was working for Kerry in the Middle East, looking after Middle East, India, and Africa. And yeah, with living in Saudi Arabia, moving to Dubai is the ultimate. So I was fortunate enough to move to Dubai with Kerry. And then after being with them for 5 years, I set up my own consultancy business. I was consulting for Tiger Brands in South Africa for 5-6 months, and now I'm here in the Midwest.
Nice. And as we were preparing for the chat here, that was a subject of conversation, is that being able to travel and see the world and get new perspectives is always amazing. But on the counterpoint, having a home base and having familiar grounds and people that you've been around and understand also has its advantages. So there's kind of pluses and minuses for both.
And yeah, growing up, my dad worked for Shell, so we lived all over the world. I lived in Singapore, Brunei, Holland, Houston, Texas, and my parents lived in Nigeria, and then they lived in Japan. So yeah, you get a lot of experience of different cultures, but also you miss that growing up in the same town and having your own culture and all your friends are the same. So
Exactly.
There's pluses and minuses, like you say.
Exactly. And it's funny. I used to manage quality for Lactalis in North America, and we were headquartered in Buffalo. And after I left there was, there's always key people who you worked with. Like, man, if the opportunity ever comes up, I would love to hire that person. I had a couple of people on my list, and I could not lure people from Buffalo, New York to Colorado. And then I'm like, I mean, really? They didn't want to move, and it was really strange.
I find that interesting in America because we're trying to attract top talent as well, and from an outsider's perspective, the USA or North America is just one country. Mm-hmm. And everybody thinks, well, of course you'll just move around wherever you need to go for the job. In New Zealand or Australia, if the job comes up, you move. It's the same wherever you go. But I find North America, people are more reluctant, that they want to stay in their own neck of the woods.
Interesting. I wonder how much of that COVID plays into it, because we've kind of gotten used to this new model of working. And when you look at ads on LinkedIn or things like this, you see lots of positions now that are flex or remote, or I think a lot of that mandatory requirement for having people move to a new city have gone down.
Mm.
I wonder.
I think that's the best model is sort of semi-hybrid. In my recent career, I've been looking after multiple facilities across multiple countries, and I was the crisis team leader for the COVID crisis. So I spent like 2 years having daily meetings in front of TV screens, as we all did.
Mm-hmm. Like we're doing right now. Yeah.
And I think we learned the benefit of that, but you can't beat the face-to-face.
No.
I always make it a point with any food facility that I look after that I have to go there. You have to smell the culture.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not necessarily what's on camera as quality people we need to worry about. It's what they're not showing you on camera.
Exactly.
Good morning, Bryan and Trevor. Nice to see you guys. With Bryan Ravitch, by the way, this is a subject that I think sometimes gets missed. If you're looking for expert help in foreign supplier verification programs, Bryan's the guy to go to. So quick little plug for Bryan, because he does amazing work in that area. Noah, good to see you as well. Toronto, great city. So as we were preparing for this chat, Campbell, you said a phrase that resonated with me and kind of set the tone for our meeting today, which is an article that you wrote, and it's got a really good title, which is great for an article, right? It's Culture Eats HACCP for Breakfast. I love it. What does that mean?
And I think all of us as quality professionals understand this. I went to a facility in Turkey, and there was a supplier of ours, and I asked them to show me the metal detector as it check the CCP, and the reject arm was very violent, and as it rejected it damaged the product. And they when I asked them to show me the metal detector and how do you do the test, they turned the metal reject arm off. And I said, why do you do that? And, we only use that when the auditor comes. So it's an example that we've all seen, and when we visit facilities, is if people don't understand the reason why they're doing food safety, and that's the culture, what you're trying to achieve with HACCP just goes out the window. And so you can have the best documented systems if the people don't understand it and believe it, and it's in the way they do things every day. Then it's not worth the paper it's written on.
Oh no, that's a fantastic point, and it's something here on the chat, Campbell, that we reemphasize time and time again. Is one of the biggest failures we've seen in our careers with really high potential people who come in. They're super smart. They're a new quality manager. They think that they can dictate from their office, and that if they write something down, that it means people are going to do it. People don't do it, and so then they write more stuff, and they just end up in this violent downward spiral, and they end in failure, and they don't understand why. You have to get out there. I have a metal detector story like that as well. So we had a metal detector, same thing, the arm going off and everything was working correctly. And they just had a box, type thing sitting on the reject arm. And we had a foreign material issue, and it wasn't a big one, but we got the sample back from the customer and did the investigation, and it came from the machine. And what we found out through the investigation was that during a shift change, some that had got rejected off, everything worked as it should. Somebody walked by, said, "Oh, what's this doing sitting here?" And boop, put it back on the line. So it gets back to that why. It's so important that people understand the why.
And Simon Sinek says it really well. Start with why, and there's so much about employee, business culture that relates to food safety culture as well. As Frank Yanis says, we're technical people. We think that it's scientific. You say something and it will happen, but you've got to tap into that psychological and emotional part of management and get people to motivated to understand why they want to do it. And I think as quality leaders, that's probably the biggest challenge we have. At least there's recognition now that those skill sets are required. So I think as people develop those skill sets, food safety will get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that as technical people, we need to be very aware of, because everybody has blind spots, and we especially have them in that area. There's this false assumption that, the data makes this clearly evident what the issue and the root cause with this is. As long as I show everybody the data, they're all going to look at it and understand like I do. No, they won't. Everybody has their own perspective. Everybody has their own way of viewing things. And one of the worst mistakes you can make when you're building a team is hiring people who are just like you. It's like, oh, wow, I really like this new quality manager I hired. He's very analytical, very to the point, hits their goals, and is a driver. Well, if you get a whole bunch of people like that, guess what? Nothing's going to get done, because they're just going to boss each other around. And by the way, thank you, Bryan, for putting in the comments here your contact information for Bryan. And I think this is a good example of how we support each other in quality, in that you don't have to be the expert in everything. You just have to have the connections and know the people who are experts in everything. So definitely reach out to Bryan. So one of those attributes of culture and what we're talking about here today is kind of comes down to that old saying that we all know is, I don't know what art is, but I know what I like. And when you look at a facility as an outside person, you can often identify very quickly in a company if they have a bad culture. And so for me, Campbell, one of the things I always look at when I'm going to a new facility is engagement. If I go out on the floor and I'm a new guy and everybody has no idea who I am, how do they react? Do they kind of go, and they all try and hide? Do they look at me with a suspicious look? Or do they engage with me? Do they say hi? who are you? Right? Just that simple thing of showing ownership and interest in what they're doing and who is in their space is a leading indicator for me.
I think a good auditor can smell the culture in a facility. And I use that metaphor because when I worked at Fonterra in the cheese factory, cheese smells pretty bad as soon as it starts to go off. So
yeah,
you walk into a cheese factory, you can immediately tell if they did their CRP properly the day before. And that's true about a lot of facilities. You can smell or you can sense. You go to the canteen, is there dirty dishes in the sink and nobody cares, or is somebody taking pride in their workplace and washing the dishes and putting them away? Simple things like that that never get put in an audit report, but strong indicators. I really like Martin Lindstrom, Small Data, and he's a top 100 thought leaders in the world. And he helps with marketing and brand management and things. And he says to forget about big data, look at the little things, the little indicators, the nudges that tell you is the food safety good or bad. And you can pick up on these little signs that really give a strong indication of whether you're in a good facility or the facility needs help.
Nice. I'll put that in the comments. What was that gentleman's name again?
Martin Lindstrom. I'll send you the details later if you want.
I'll just throw that in the chat here as well for everybody. There we go. Did I get that correct?
Almost L-I. And I think it's Martin with a Y maybe.
Okay, so I completely messed that up. So it's
no problem.
Forget that name. There we go.
He came to speak to us at Almerai, and he was one of those influential speakers that I'll never forget. So really engaging and looks at things from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm. And really that's kind of our next point that we're talking about here is bad culture. And one of the lowest audited, well, not audited, but cited examples in audits from GFSI standards, so SQF, for example, 2.1 management commitment, is the lowest item that auditors will cite within companies. And it makes sense because if I'm an auditor, Campbell, and I'm coming into your facility and we do the audit and I'm not really happy as an auditor what I see around management commitment, and we sit down for the closeout meeting and I tell you that you suck, your reaction is not going to be very pleasant. And human beings don't like confrontation as a general rule. So auditors are like, well, why would I put myself through that? So it never gets written up.
And you probably won't ask that auditor to come back. So, a lot of certification bodies, it's a commercial enterprise, they want to encourage repeat business.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't want to criticize the person that pays the bill.
Yeah. As an auditor, and a lot of times auditors, there's auditors that are employed full-time by a certification body, and then there's independent contractors.
Yeah. And
they have to keep their calendar full. And so if they're making people upset and not doing a good job of that, they don't get invited back, which is an issue for sure. The other issue with this is, and I think you bring a really unique perspective on this, Campbell, is culture. And we're talking food safety culture. And the assumption is that culture is the same everywhere. So from your perspective, you must have seen cultures just running the gamut relative to this in your facilities.
In Almerai, we had more than 50 different nationalities. We had 40,000 staff and more than 50 nationalities. So, and then Kerry, we had 89 countries within the Middle East, India, and South and Indian subcontinent and Africa region. And yeah, I think culture can be a strength or it can be a detriment. So I often refer to culture as like a container ship on its journey. And, some people's culture is like a speedboat and it just goes wherever you you point the steering wheel. And other cultures in different countries, you need to think about where you're going a long time ahead of time, and that will and it's very hard to change. But once it's changed, then nothing stops it, unless it smashes into a bridge.
Exactly, and causes massive disruption.
Yeah.
Any areas or regions of the world that were particularly easy to work with, or other ones that were really hard to work with from a culture standpoint?
I think the Middle East and Indian and Indian subcontinent culture is a little bit more directive. They've done on Gartner, and that have done a lot of surveys of different cultures, and some cultures are very direct. Southeast Asian and Middle East culture is very, you tell people what to do, and they will do it even when your back is turned. And Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, North America, Canada, you tell someone what to do, as soon as your back's turned, they'll go, who's he? I've been here for 20 years. I know better than him. Yes. But that said, those people are very passionate and strong-willed. So if you explain to them why we need to do something and they buy into it, then they will continue to do it, and they will tell everybody else to do it, even without you having to be there and monitoring them. So you need different approaches for different types of culture.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's a lesson I learned as well. So I worked for a company that had a Mexican division, and I would go to the plants there and give instructions on what I wanted done, and really wouldn't make a whole lot of headway. And I was complaining about this with a fellow coworker who'd been in the company for a while. He said, "Well, Bryan, what you don't understand is in Mexican culture, the boss is the person who gives orders, the boss of the plant, the patron, right? He's in charge. You're an outsider coming into his domain. The directive has to come from the boss. You're not perceived as the boss." So once I figured that out, then I would work with the plant manager to make sure that the instructions were understood on the floor and that everybody followed them. Then everything went fine.
Yeah, very, very much. And I think you need to be aware of that type of dynamic. And when you've got multiple cultures in one facility, it's very interesting to try to understand what is the predominant dynamic and what type of approach. But I think that the key thing is people want to, I've been reading about how to build trust as well. And in Almerai, we had this change management project called Project Trust. And our motto was quality you can trust. And we really wanted everybody to believe in quality and improve. And it was really about building trust and building understanding. And I think for people to trust you, they need to believe that you're competent, and they believe that you have the capabilities, but also you have the integrity. You're doing it for the right reasons, So, and also, it doesn't. It's not a problem to be vulnerable. If you show that you're doing it together, people are more likely to follow you than if you just say, "Well, you should do it that way because I've figured out how to do it best." So I think that applies across cultures. It doesn't. Trust is a very powerful tool.
Oh, that's a huge point. Part of the advantage we have in quality, well, advantage sometimes, disadvantages in others, but we are viewed as the moral standard within the company. We're the group that decides good or bad, right or wrong, yes or no. We're the judges. And we are expected and held to a higher standard. And we need to show that. And to your point, Campbell, communicate that constantly. And one of the things that I've always taught my quality teams is if there's a crisis situation in the company, so a potential recall or things of this nature, the company is going to react depending upon how you react as head of quality. So if a potential issue occurs and people are starting to get nervous or panicky, they're looking to you. And if you are nervous or panicky, it's going to be reflected, and the organization is going to go down that road. You need to be okay, we have procedures, we have trained for this, we're going to do our investigation, we're going to put together our team. These are the steps that we're going to take. You immediately then take that leadership role, and you need to be ready for that and understand the important psychological dynamics that are taking place.
I think that's one of the most important skill sets in a leader in quality, is that ability to maintain calm in a time of crisis.
Right.
And I've had many leaders above me who, when a crisis hits, it's like panic and freak out and run around and get on the phone and that just doesn't help the situation. It just makes it worse. So then people under them are just freaking out, like they're thinking they're going to lose their job or so, and that's detrimental to actually solving the problem. So
absolutely. And yeah, so in that aspect, you need to do that. And a big chunk of developing this culture, because it comes really in some ways from us. We're the example of how these things should be done. So as the paragon within this particular example, consistency is so important. What I would always say to my teams that I was training new managers, you're doing your job well if someone comes to you for assistance and you give them an answer and they say, yep, that's what I thought you would say. Good, right? You want them to be able to read your mind and be able to say, what's Bryan going to say in this situation? And he's going to say that. And then you say it, right? That's like, okay, yep. If you are inconsistent and all over the board, that just breeds in the organization.
And it's important for them to put your hat on as well, like you say, so they predict what you're going to say. So then why do you need to ask me? You can make that decision just as easily as me, and then you know that you've got it. They're living and breathing the quality. It's not just something they're told to do.
Yeah, and so with that bad culture, I think, Campbell, one of the leading indicators of that is how companies approach audits. And we have our SQF audit coming up next month. We need to get ready, right? Clean the plant, mow the lawn, put our documentation in place. We got a giant checklist. Let's have meetings every other day to get ready for this. Is that really? I mean, should you really be approaching systems like that? It seems very bad.
I remember a story from one of my ARB auditors when he went to a factory in South Africa. He told me that there was this warehouse that was locked, and there was a label on the door that said ABC warehouse or something. And they said, that's outside of the scope. That even though it's on our facility, it belongs to somebody else. Don't go in there. And one day he went back to that facility, and the door happened to be open. Someone forgot to lock it, and that was where they'd put all the dirty pallets and all the machinery that was broken and everything. So when they knew the auditor was coming. So certainly, people don't take on audits in the right approach. And we were talking about the unseen things in culture. When I get auditors to go to facilities that I know about, I get them to send me an off the record email. Just give me your personal perspective about what you feel about the facility. It doesn't have to go in the audit report, but for me, that's much more important than the actual observations, because sometimes they're quite restricted with what they can say. But having that subjective approach is actually quite important, especially if you're looking at the culture.
Yep. One of the things I would do, Campbell, for my plants is, number one, I would negotiate with the different certification bodies to figure out which one I figured was the correct one. Different auditing companies have different approaches. So do you want a big auditing company with lots of different auditors? Are you looking more for a boutique one? Some certification bodies specialize in certain industries. So for your example, AIB, very famous for bakery audits. There's an auditing company in Texas, Food Safety Nets, that specializes in meat. So it's very important that you understand that, because the auditor is critical. Once I decided on a certification body, I would then interview auditors. And ideally for my plants, I wanted the same auditor going to all my plants.
Yep.
And I would say, okay, here's our industry, right? So like you, dairy. And I want your 3 top auditors for dairy, and I want to see their CVs. And I want to interview them.
Yep.
You can do that. You can do that.
Yep.
And I would ask them basic questions like this. To your point, it's like, okay, Mr. Auditor, you are in my facility and you are doing the tour and you're opening, and you go to a back warehouse, and it's part of the plant and it's in scope. And the auditor goes back there, and this warehouse isn't really used, and there's some storage in there, but it's not part of production. You see an area that has some cobwebs and things of this nature, and it looks like a potentially a cracked window high up in the back area. How would you write that up? And if that auditor starts going, well, according to 11 point, right, and yes, they're going to get a minor in these type of things, I know that's not the right auditor, because he doesn't understand the context.
Yep.
That has no impact on food safety. If he sees a pattern in the facility and says, okay, well, I'll make a mental note of that. If I were to see more of those type of transgressions within the facility, that's showing me that there's a pattern, and I'm going to probably write that up. Good. That's what I want to see. I don't want the auditor who just looks at things and literally tries to interpret a book and apply that to my facility. That doesn't work.
Just back to your point with AIB, I first got introduced to AIB when I was working for McCain Foods, and I was making frozen vegetables in New Zealand. And our global VP of quality for McCain said, all over the world, McCain Foods is going to do AIB. And I was thinking, what the heck is an American company that specializes in baking got to tell me about frozen vegetables going to Japan? So,
yeah.
But actually, I find that, and I keep telling AIB they should change their name, because they actually are just a very fundamental GMP standard that applies to every industry. For example, Pepsi use them all over the world. I think it's a bit of a misnomer that they can keep calling themselves baking and American.
Yeah, exactly.
That's heritage. They're 100 years old. So
yeah, exactly. And it came out of that, visual inspection mode, and AIB auditors are really good at that.
Yeah.
If you wanted an auditor with a flashlight who's going to be poking around your equipment and looking in all the dark corners of your plant, yeah, they're good at that.
Yep.
So you need to take those things into context when you're looking at these different auditing companies and how the auditors are performing these tasks. Because as someone in quality, you want to get value out of that. Okay, fine. That auditor in my prior example writes my plant up for that broken window. Okay, well, yeah, okay, I'll have that fixed tomorrow.
Yeah, it doesn't add any value. Yeah,
it doesn't add any value.
Yeah.
And so part of that is, with that, really what I've found, I'm very curious to get your take on this, Campbell, is in the past, and regulars on our chat here like Melody, hello Melody, will know that I speak about this before, because part of this is repetition. Repetition and getting these messages across is very, very important. And that consistency as a leader in quality is important as well. If as a leader in quality, you think that you can move the needle in your facility by going out and barking at people on the floor and going around and saying, fix that hairnet, and you wash your hands better, and hey, I don't like those shoes, and then you walk away, to your point earlier with the Aussie.
Yeah, easy.
Yeah. Who's that guy? Whatever. Right? It doesn't have an impact. And one of the rules in life that is universal is, with incentives, is money. Hey, follow the money. If I'm working on the floor and you are my boss, Campbell, you control my world. You tell me what schedule I work, you tell me what hours I work, you tell me what machines I'm on. If I have overtime, am I going to be first in line to get that extra money? Am I going to be getting really bad jobs as punishment from you? That relationship is critical. And you need to, as a quality manager, understand that. So if I'm on the floor and my hairnet that game people like to play with, how far can they get the hairnet up on their head? If I interact with that employee and directly go to them and say, hey, put your damn hairnet on right, that's very ineffective. I need to go to the supervisor and say, hey, listen, you're in charge of this area, right? Yep, this is my area. Great. And your team is really good at GMPs? Oh, absolutely. My team's one of the best teams in the planet for GMPs. Fantastic. But I'm a little confused. That gentleman over there is not wearing his hairnet correctly. Why? Now walk away. The conversation that takes place is going to be very, very different, because now the supervisor is going to go to the employee and say, hey, that was the VP of quality who just came into the plant. You made me look bad. You know how to wear hairnets. You know all these activities. You know the importance of it. Do I need to send you back to training? What? And at the very least, it's going to be this. I'm watching you, buddy. Right? You have to understand that relationship. What do you think of that?
Yeah, what I've found is in facilities that perform the best in food safety and quality, it's this ownership, and it's like you say, they take pride in their workplace, and they challenge themselves to improve. The ones that don't perform so well wait for the quality guy to come in and tell them when they've got a problem. And
I hate that. Hey, we've got a quality problem. I didn't make the product. You made the product. We have a production problem. Yes. I'll help you.
Yes, exactly. It's all about the terminology, and it's that ownership. And in Almerai, I really knew that we'd succeeded when we had the managing director of the operations. He was looking after all the facilities. He was on his hands and knees underneath the filling machine looking for mold with a flashlight. So that people take ownership when they see that you take ownership as a leader as well. So I think it's really important that the leaders walk the walk, and then that encourages the staff to follow. If people just walk by, then everybody walks by. It's really that leadership and engagement is same in any culture, but also particularly important for food safety culture.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you as a quality manager in facility come in the morning, plop down at your desk, start reading emails, go to some meetings, maybe you do a quick tour of the floor around lunch or whatever, and it's not a formalized system, it's not effective. And so you provided, Campbell, a graphic from your prior life that I thought was fantastic, and we'll pop that guy up here, because really, and this is something we talk about quite a bit, culture is really the basics, and it's what I call blocking and tackling. You need to be looking for things, and this slide from Carrie with this golden 6 is fantastic. Can you kind of walk us through this?
Yep. So this is a little bit old. It's got the old Carey logo, and they've updated the Safety First, Quality Always logo. This was introduced to Carey back in 2019 when I was in the Middle East, and it came from Hugo Gutierrez, who was our Chief Quality and Food Safety Officer. He had something similar in Hershey. Everybody knows Hershey's chocolates, and it's very. I think the beauty of this is its simplicity, and it's like the safety behavior observation system. So every what we got in our facilities is we got every shift. At the start of the shift, they would do this just simple checklist of, do we have any of these fundamental issues that can be addressed, and then you just score based on this. It's not so much a checklist, but more looking for red flags. And so if there's something that's a red flag in this category that's not on this list, you can still raise it as an issue. But you should always check these fundamental things, and it's getting the operators and the supervisors in the factory doing this on a daily basis. And it's like that pyramid of safety. If you've got fatalities at the top and lost time injuries, for human safety. With food safety, you've got product recalls and non-conformances and customer audit non-conformances and things. So you're not going to fix those things at the top of the pyramid by focusing on them. You need to focus on the fundamentals at the bottom on a lot more frequent basis. So and there's a lot of science behind this, but it is in its practice, it's very simple and easy to implement. And I think getting people to follow these basic, golden six, we called them, and then Kerry, we went on to develop the Golden Guardians, and we had like animated training, and everybody dressed up in capes and flags and things, and we had competitions for World Food Safety Day, and it was really engaging and fun thing, which can be quite a boring topic, but I think the key thing is that it's this leadership emphasis on fundamental GMP issues, and also there's an element to psychological safety. So a lot of people might see something that they don't think is right, but they're afraid to put their hand up and say, well, hey, that's not right, because they don't want to be the only one who's mentioned something. And we all do it. We all want to conform. We actually get a lot of endorphins produced in the brain when we conform to what everybody else is doing. It's pleasurable to do the same as everybody else. So by having this as something that everybody does, then it becomes the way you do things around here, and you improve those fundamental behaviors. And then it becomes the norm to raise a red flag, like, hey, that mouse shouldn't be there. Well, what's happening? Or that cockroach, or whatever it is, So I think that's where all this works in improving food safety culture, because it encourages that behavior change of hey, I've noticed something.
Wow, ton of great information in there, and you said something, Campbell, that was very important. This is how we do things here. That's culture. That's culture. 100%. And moving that is exceptionally difficult. And what I love about this, there's another saying that I use a lot, which is simple is hard.
Yep.
We're very good at writing complex, difficult things that are not followed. What I love about this is it's simple. And it for me, it parallels safety. We talk about in OSHA and other requirements near misses. Yep. So a forklift goes screaming around a corner and almost hits somebody. Whoa, that's a red flag. It's exactly the same as this. Those behaviors are going to lead to very dangerous situations. And this is teaching people that keep an eye out, right? Look around, look around. Don't get caught doing this, because it's very easy. So like for your water control, roof and overhead leaks, just look up every now and then, right? We don't do that. GMPs, right? These basics are so important because they lead to better activities in more sophisticated things. Yep. One of the things regulatory agencies love to do if they're in your facility is just hang out, right? They'll go out on the floor and they'll just sit by the hand wash station for a while. And after a period of time, people forget they're there, and then the real behavior starts coming out. Yep. And when you see warning letters from FDA, which by the way, you should be reading, FDA always cites GMPs. So I saw this, and I saw people not washing their hands, and I saw things on the floor, and I saw this, which leads to, and then they get into the documentation. Therefore, your food safety plan is ineffective because your preventive controls and your prerequisites are not being followed. That's culture.
Yep, 100%. And for me, this is like the basic stuff that happens every day. And then on a monthly basis, you'd have your leadership team, food safety leadership team in the facility, do a full inspection of the entire facility, monthly self-inspection of every area of the facility. And then that encouraged those leadership behaviors that they were talking about, walk the walk, and teaching people what they see you do is what people think is important, and what they take home. That's the take home message.
Right. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, and then I was just going to say, and then those departments that see the monthly leadership team, they then take that on board and start doing weekly inspections so that they don't get caught out on the monthly inspection, and then that encourages those behaviours as well. So I think it's the sort of waterfall cascade effect of building culture right from the top floor to the shop floor.
Yeah, absolutely. Those walkthroughs have to be the management team, not the quality guy walking around by himself.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep. So definitely, I want to get to this point as well. So Tiger Brands in South Africa, one of the most tragic, biggest recalls for Listeria I think we've ever seen. And you have some inside perspective on that. I would love to hear your thoughts and comments.
With Tiger Brands, they're a huge company that not a lot of people have heard of. So they're the largest food and beverage and FMCG company in Africa. They've got leading brands in every aisle of the supermarket. They've got multiple factories all over the country and wider Africa, and they produce everything from baby food to fly spray. So very complex organization and huge powerful brands. And with the Listeria recall, it was very interesting. That I think that just with the complexity, they took their eye off the ball, and since then, I came in after it had already been cleaned up. There was another guy, Eduardo, who was their director before me. He did a fantastic job of really improving their food safety and quality culture and setting out their strategy for improvement. And I really saw the change and then taking it seriously and the transformation. But I think it's very easy for organizations to lose that focus on food safety when you've got all that complexity, especially different types of product categories that require a different level of food safety and attention. And I think that there's probably something that we could all learn from, is make sure we've got the right resources with the right specialties in those types of products, especially for quality. I mean, even Kerry wasn't immune from. They had a large recall that's public before I started, and they realised that they could have spent $8 million to save the recall, which cost $80 million. So if you ask any businessman, would you rather lose 80 million or would you like to spend 8 million? That's probably an easy calculation to do.
Yeah, it always gets back to, and that's an important point as well, is fighting this stupid belief that quality costs money. Right? It's like, no.
Quality is free.
Yeah. Quality's free. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I'm just going to say it drives the revenue. Quality. A lot of companies see quality, especially in food safety, as blockers. We're the ones who say no. We're the conscience of the organization, and I'm always surprised at how few companies have quality at the top level. Quality is never on the board. Quality is never in the chief. Very few companies have chief quality officers. Many facility companies I see, they have multiple chief officers, chief procurement officers, chief supply chain officers, chief everything officer. But where's the chief quality officer? So I think people don't like to be reminded about quality, and I think quality is seen as something that is trying to prevent growth or prevent innovation, but actually it should be the enabler, where we are the ones who can help grow the business, because quality is what the customers want. If you had a choice to buy a product, regardless of the price, if you knew that this product was trusted and top quality and always going to give you food safety, or you had another product that or you might get sick from. Which one would you choose?
Yeah. Well, and my example is, as Americans, this hidden assumption that we have that the food is always safe immediately disappears when you go to foreign countries. And so if you're a tourist in Mexico, all of a sudden your walls go up and you're very cautious about why you eat what you eat.
Yeah.
Okay, why? What taught you that? And what makes you think that that assumption also applies in the US? And so breaking through those barriers and figuring those things out is very important. And kind of segueing into that as well, Campbell, is a concept that you had mentioned as well as we were preparing for this chat, which I think really kind of fits well together with both the plant and the corporate levels of what we're talking about, which is integrated management. And what is that?
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in integrated management systems. So in Almerai, we implemented multiple ISO standards. So a lot of companies implement, GFSI standards or even just ISO 22000. In the Middle East, there's regulatory requirements to have ISO 22000, especially if you export. GFSI, I think, needs to be the go-to standard, and that's developing in the Middle East. But really, that everybody has started to realise that GFSI standards, FSSC 22000, BRC, SQF, IFS, they need to be the go-to standard for food safety. But if you want to produce quality, where you're looking at continuous improvement, you need ISO 9000, and ISO 9000 has been around for a long time. It has multiple iterations. The ISO standards now all have the same structure. So there's they call it the Annex SL, or the high level structure, and so they all follow this plan, do, check, act type process, and it starts with leadership and planning, and then resource management, and then operations, and then control of non-conformances and continuous improvement. And we also implemented health and safety management. So you now have ISO 45000, and then there's environmental management systems, ISO 14000. You can also implement other standards like ISO 27000, which is about more IT controls, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we implemented the 4 standards: 9000, 22000, 14000, 45000. And by having these standards overlap, you get a lot of benefits, because then quality people go and audit health and safety, and health and safety people go and audit quality, and your environmental guy goes and audits quality, and you can have integrated management system auditors in every department of your business. So you have quality thought processes, plan, do, check, act in HR. Like how many companies have frustrations with the HR processes within their organization? Yeah. So the employee is the customer in an HR process. So is HR measuring their customer satisfaction and doing things to improve it, with a plan, do, check, that type mentality? So, and you can have that in finance, you can have that in capital projects, you can have that in procurement, you can have that in all the functions within the organization. So I think taking integrated management systems and using quality with a capital Q, looking at all aspects of the organization, adds a hell of a lot of value. And we did that in Almerai very successfully. And Almerai is quite an interesting success story. The success speaks for itself.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's some super big lessons there. And this weaves back into exactly what we're talking about today, which is, we're the systems builder. We're people look to us for this. And just like you don't want to build systems in a plant and say, oh, that's quality's problem, the same applies for all these different systems that you're mentioning as well. Things work better. And I love what you said earlier on this, Campbell, which is, if you want to be agile and move quickly within a company and produce innovation and new products and things like this, you need better systems. Right? You need systems that allow you to do that. If you just let everybody kind of just be crazy and do their own thing, boy, oh, you're asking for trouble, because people are going to miss stuff, allergens, right, or things like this. Oops, forgot that on the label. Recall. All of these type of activities all integrate within these, and helping these other departments understand this and help them build out those systems, absolutely critical. That's a really, really good point. Well, let's see. Wow, we've covered a ton of stuff here today, Campbell. Let's kind of bring this back up to the 30,000 foot level. So what would you like people to leave with today?
I think the fundamental thing that we all need to understand is that quality is an entire organization problem. So, like food safety is an entire organization problem. Food safety needs to be embedded into every department, procurement, R&D, purchase, HR, finance. Everybody needs to understand food safety, and then also, the culture of the organization is by walking the walk. So by getting all those people to follow the leadership example, but get them to understand the reason why. And if you lead with why, get people to follow. And then, but like we said before, have consistency and integrity. Then you build trust, and then you're going to have success in food safety.
Yeah, and to reemphasize that, this is a collaborative process.
Yep.
This is not us going to the procurement group and saying, "Hey, listen, you need to put some systems in place, and I'm going to make you," right? Just like me going out on the floor and barking at people for not wearing their hairnet correctly, the exact same mistake. You have to show them the benefits and the why, to your point, Campbell, which I think is extremely important.
Yep, 100%.
So as we were preparing for this, there was a really, really good article, and I'll put the link in here that you put together. So take a look at this. I've actually bookmarked this to the page with Campbell's article. So our topic for today, so Culture Eats HACCP for breakfast, a really good overview of this. And as well, in the Food Safety Chat database, I'm going to put in some of this reference materials and the chart that Campbell very graciously allowed us access to. So for upcoming activities for me, so next week is the Food Safety Summit in Chicago. It looks like it's going to be a fantastic, very well attended. I'm going to be on Wednesday. This is going to be fun. I'm going to be with Trace Gaines, and they are in booth 229. And I'm going to be doing remote interviews. And it's going to be super simple. All we're going to do is we're going to set up a table there at their booth, and we'll have a section of about 8 questions. And of those 8 questions, pick 4 of those. And we'll have a conversation around, well, how did you get working in food safety? Or why is food safety important to you? Questions like this. And we'll just have a little chat live right there on the floor. And it's really fantastic that Trace Gaines sponsored this. And they're also doing a little separate drawing for swag. So if you join me and participate in the chat, you'll get a chance to win some pretty cool prizes. So I'm really looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a ton. And the conference too looks amazing. A lot of good speakers as well. So hopefully if you're there, are you going to be there?
Yep, just for one day. I think Wednesday.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So there's lots of different people that are going to be there. And so I'm really excited about being there. So come by and say hi. If you don't feel like being interviewed, that's okay. Just kind of drop by and see how all of this stuff works. That's kind of cool too. So anything else, Campbell, you'd like to close on today?
All good. Look, feel free if anybody wants to contact me to discuss any of the stuff we've touched on further. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm happy for people to reach out to me.
Yeah, and that's what's so amazing about what we do, is we work for companies or we're out on our own or what have you, but we're all working toward the same goal. And food safety, again, not a point of competition. So with that, thank you, Campbell. Fantastic conversation. I love how we kind of went high and then back down low into the specifics, because if you just think of terms abstractly, it's very difficult to implement. But if you get concrete examples of how to do it, that makes things so much easier. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, happy.
And thank you, everybody, for your amazing comments here today. I appreciate you as well. We do this chat for you. And next week, we'll be back here at the same time. And we live stream on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. So pick your poison, how you'd like to join us. And we'll see you back here at the same time, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern for the next food safety chat. And I'll bring another amazing guest like Campbell on the show to share his or her expertise. So in the meantime, enjoy your weekend. Have a good time. I'm going to be doing lots of yard work, so that's all lined up. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great one. Enjoy.
Cheers.